Welcome to Stayf Draws. I'm Stayf, an illustrator and animator, and this is my second live broadcast. And the great thing about the broadcast is that there is a chat, and to the right of this video you can see a chat box. There you can type in some questions and I can see the chat box and just react or answer your questions. So I'm first going to check if that's also possible on the iPad, and I'm just going to switch my camera, but I already got a question from Flavio Doré. He's a French guy, and he asked how I film my videos. And I'm now filming this with my iPhone 6s, and I have the back camera on, and I'm now going to switch to the other side of my iPhone, so you won't see me, but you will see my hands just drawing on the iPad. So I'm just going to check if the chat is also working on an iPad. I'm not sure if someone is viewing this on an iPad as well. I'm just gonna check. Oh, here's the live broadcast. And here's the live broadcast. No, I'm not going to do that. There's a bit of a latency. Well, it's not working on the iPad, I think. So I'm going to check on my computer if I see the chat, because there's just a tiny window on my iPhone and all of the comments just go by too quick. So I have to log into my computer to see the chat groups. And I'm now working on a new project, and I'm doing some layouts and some sketches for the animation I'm going to do. And this is just one sketch, but I'll just have to log into my computer to see the chat group. Just a second. And can everybody hear me? Well, the chat group I cannot see. Wait a second. I'm just gonna log in to a different account, so I may see the chat group. Okay, here's the chat group. Fer Marufo. Here's the chat group. I'm just gonna. Fer Marufo. Yeah, you're the first viewer. Hello. Tout apprendre. Hi. Nurit Ariel. Hello. Greetings from Mexico. From Abril Satina. Greetings from Paris. Alberto Hernandez from Portugal. And Alberto, you're on an iPad Pro and you can see the chat group. Dave Webster, hello from Idaho. iPad works. Okay, that's good to know. Abril Zatina, hi everybody. I have an iPod Pro, says Nurit Ariel. Love it a lot. Small problem, I don't know to draw and always get lost when trying to learn by myself. Any advice? You just have to start out simple. I have some tutorials on the basics of drawing, and you can check the playlist on my YouTube channel. Not gonna watch this. There is a playlist. I've made some playlists, and there is a playlist for, let me see where it is. Oh, here, drawing basics. And when you click that, you can see a lot of different tutorials on the beginning of drawing, and just some tutorials about drawing ellipses and drawing in perspective. So this is a good starting point if you want to learn how to draw. Hello, Paul Jones from the UK. So I'm going back to the project I'm working on. And if you have any questions, you just can ask them, and then I'll try to answer them. This is for a trailer I'm going to make, and I just made some sketches of, it's based around fireflies, and they live in a little village. So I just sketched this in Procreate, and maybe it's interesting to see how many layers I have used. There's just a lot of different layers, and I do that so that you can move around parts, because I first drew the buildings, and I think there's a perspective guide I used. Yeah, that's still on here. So this is a 2-point perspective, and you can check that when you press on the actions button. You can edit your perspective guide here, and here you see that there are 2 points, and I just use that for the basic shapes. And then you can, when you're drawing on a layer, you can tap on it and then click on assist. And when you then draw on your layer, it will follow the perspective grid. But I only do that in the beginning, because otherwise you're not free to draw around. So I'm just going to turn it off. And this was the sketch, and I already made, let me see. This is the illustration I'm going to use in the animation. And the characters I need to draw in an animation program like Flash, or I'm not quite sure in what kind of software I'm going to do the animation. And this is a 4K background, I think. It's 4096 by 1714 pixels. And I need to do a pan. It starts out here, and then a butterfly flies up here, and then he flies up here, and then I can make a pan from left to right, and he just ends up here. So these are, because I used the initial sketch, so I can turn off some layers, because these are the lights that are on a separate layer, and it's pretty dark. Because it takes place at night, and then you can, have the effect of the the fireflies and with the green light that beams up. So you have a better contrast. And these are the colors I've used. It's a separate layer and it's put to multiply. And when you turn it off, you just can see the grayscale. So that's great to, or a great way, you know, to first do the grayscales of your illustration and then later add on the colors. And these are the colors of the entire illustration. I also made another illustration, and that's more an interior shot. And that's of an old lady. And I made another illustration, but the client thought it was a little bit too scary. And I had her eyes beam up, and this was a little bit inspired by the movie The Secret of Nim. It's a great animation by, what's his name again? I'm not sure. It was an animation of, I think it was made in the 80s. But the client thought that the woman was a little bit too scary, so I had to redesign it. So it became this illustration, and now she's a little bit more friendly. And this illustration is also made in different parts. So on top I have all the lights beaming up, and I also made a group. And groups are great, you know, to have, this is just the foreground, and then you can just see how it's all built up, because these are the colors and these are the shades, and here are the inks. So there are 3 different layers. And great thing about Procreate 3.2 is that you now can group some of your layers. Let me see. And for the background, I had, let me see. These are the inks for the, I'm just gonna switch it up here, otherwise you won't see it. These are the inks for the cupboard and for tapestry. And just gonna switch off some layers to go to the original illustration. And this may be an interesting thing to show. I've downloaded a tapestry because it's very hard to draw this in perspective. So if you have something of an image of some designs and you want to draw it in perspective, you can do that by I'm just going to add a new layer and import it again, because I just found a tapestry on Google and I'm just going to insert it and I'm going to my photos library, and there you can find, here it is, but it still has some other things attached to it. I'm just going to turn off the other layers so you can see it better. And also got a question from someone if you could, because this file has a lot of different layers, and Procreate doesn't, like in Photoshop, you can just tap on your canvas and then it will select the layer. But now I have to deselect all the layers. Let me see. I want the wise woman. Oh, that's this one. And let me see where the layer is here. Because you can also use like a magic wand, and then you have to select automatic and just press with the selection tool on a part, and then you can erase it, I think. So if you put the eraser on, now there is a mask. So now you can erase a part of it. Just gonna select a bigger brush. This is a very big brush, the airbrush. And then you can just erase bigger parts of your illustration. You can do the same with this part and erase it again. You can also do that by selecting, let me see if you can see it totally. Yeah. If you select freehand, you can just use it as a lasso tool, and then you just drag your selection from the canvas, then it's gone. So if you want to make some selections and want to throw them away, just drag them down. Just going to select this. Doesn't need to be perfect because I'm going to draw over it after I'm finished with this. What you now can do is select your layer and put it to freeform, and then you can drag it or scale it and drag it into perspective. And the best thing, because with the Apple Pencil it doesn't really work, so I always use my fingers to do that. You have to press on this corner and then drag it so you can draw it in perspective. And in this way you can adjust or pull something in perspective. So this is how I did this illustration, and then you have to deselect it, and then it is then your tapestry is in perspective. And what I did was I drew just over it and made a different design, a more simplified design, but then you already have the patterns of your tapestry in perspective. So that's an handy way to draw some difficult things in perspective. Let me see where I started. Just gonna deselect all the layers. So I also started out with a perspective guide, but sometimes I just draw the sketch in a different file and then I just import it into a new file. So I'm not sure if here's a perspective guide. Yes, this is the perspective guide for this illustration. Mr. Cron Guest asks, why do you like the iPad so much? Is it better than a Wacom? Well, it's not better than a Wacom, but it's easier, you know, to draw, because I have a Wacom Cintiq 24-inch and you can see it here, and that's a very big drawing tablet. And this iPad I just can take along with me wherever I am, and I can just paint on the couch, or now I'm sitting down, but I like the Apple Pencil better than drawing with the Wacom stylus, because the pressure sensitivity of the Apple Pencil is more accurate than a Wacom stylus, but that's just my preference. And a lot of people are really used to drawing on a Wacom tablet. But I started drawing on Wacom tablets, I think 17 years ago, and on a Wacom Cintiq for the last, I'm not sure when the first Wacom Cintiq came out, but they're just great, you know, for drawing in Photoshop and Flash and all the other programs. But I like Procreate a lot because it comes closest to drawing on paper. Alberto Hernandez, deselect all is a feature we are waiting for. Yeah, that would be a great feature for Procreate. And there will be an update soon, because the iPad Pro 2 is coming out, and maybe the Apple Pencil 2, and Procreate works together with Apple to make the experience of the Apple Pencil as good as possible. So there's going to be an update, and I think the Apple Pencil 2 will come out on April 4 or the week after that. So I'm really curious what the Apple Pencil 2 will be like. Let me see. These are the sketches I did, and they were in a 2-point perspective, I think. Let me check. Yeah, this is the perspective I drew the entire illustration in. And here are some sketches of the characters. And I think I used this one. And then on top of it, I drew the colors and the inks and the wings, I think. Yeah. And these are the inks of the character. And I've put that in a group. The great thing about that you put something in a group, that you can Let me see, where's the group? You can just drag it around and place your elements, because these are I think 4 different layers, and that's a great way, you know, to switch some things around. And here's the side table, the illustrations for the wise woman, and these are all in separate layers, so I can later, you know, move it around. And I'm making this for animation, so she's going to be drawn again in animation, and then this will be on top, in the top layer, because when she's moving around, this needs to be a foreground element, because maybe the cloak will move around, and that's why I'm using all the different layers. Here's the flame, and here I did some, maybe put it a little bit smaller, and here I did some shading already. I'll just turn off the perspective guide, because otherwise it will get in the way. Dave Webster asks, how do you break a group back to individual layers? I'm just going to show you in a different file, otherwise I'll mess up this one. Let me see. This is another illustration. I'm just going to copy this one or duplicate it so I can show you. It's a really big file, I think. So if you have a group, let me see where the groups are. I don't have any groups in this image, I think. Oh, here's a group. That's of the boy. And these layers are in the group, but if you want to make them into single layers again, you just swipe it out. And the way to make a group is that you drag it onto another layer, and then you see a little blue line appearing, and you don't want that. So now this layer is not in this group again, or in this group anymore. And when you want to group, for instance, group these 2 images, you just drag it onto the layer, and then you will see a blue. Sometimes it doesn't really pop on, but you see a blue line. It's not really working. Here you see a blue line, and then you've created a new group. So there's not an action to degroup everything, all the layers that are in your group, so you have to do it manually. Paul Jones, Steve, how did you create the group? Okay, well, I already showed you. So did you understand, Paul? Let me see. I was still showing this image. I see that the surface is really dirty. So What I always do is I have a little cloth that I clean my iPad with, because the Apple Pencil is very sensitive to grease. So if you're doing some fine inks, it will create little bumps. Let me continue. Where was I? Well, here were the sketches for the foreground. And I just build up the image and first do everything in Sketch, and then later on do the inks and then the colors. I'm just going to turn off the sketches. And here you have the lights. And here is the background of the bookcase. And I'm just going to turn off the layer, the sketch layer of the little firefly boy. And what I did to make these wings transparent is that I created a new layer, and you just can see it. And these are just the wings, and I painted it with white. And then I adjusted you can adjust the opacity of the wings. So that's why it's on a separate layer. That's great, you know, if you want to paint glass or anything else. And the rest, let me see. And these are the colors of the boy, and the wings are just separate. Hello, Cora. It's easier for me to make a group by picking a primary layer, then swiping another layer to the right to make them secondary, then tap the 3 lines at top of stack to make the group. Well, that's also a good way to do it. What she is saying is that if you have, let me see if I can show you. I'll just use the other file. Because you have in Procreate 3.2, you can now work with different layers, and you have the primary layers and the secondary layers. So I'm just gonna select this, and you have to swipe to the right, and this is your primary layer, it's blue. And when you swipe underneath this layer, this will be the secondary layer. And I think this already is in, and then you can group them, I think. I'm not sure if it was this image or this selection tool or this one. Just find out. Okay, yeah, that's what Cora means. That's another way to create a group. So you can select the layers, and then you have all the layers in a new group. Hello, Roger. Blimey, just turned in by chance, and I've learned something in the first minute. Separate white layer and opacity is glass. Very useful. Thanks, Stayf. Well, you're welcome, Roger. Back to this image. I'm just switching between images. Let me see how I build it up, because sometimes I just got lost a little bit, because best practice, of course, is to name everything you're doing so that you know what is on each layer. But when you're drawing fast, that's not something that will happen. These are the inks of the background. Here's the shading, and here are the colors, and the shading is put to multiply, and I've set it to 59%, otherwise it won't get too dark. And underneath that I've created a layer just with the colors. So in that way you can because this is going to be an animation scene where this woman first doesn't light up and later on she will light up, and then I can just adjust, let me see, this layer, the transparency of this layer, because the scene will get lighter. This layer, because then you can adjust the lighting. Let me see another, because I do a lot of sketches before I do a background, and there was another scene that I'm had to design, and that is of a tree house. So I made some sketches, and I also had a perspective, and this was just a very rough version of it, just to see, because in the image there would be a veranda or a porch and the house. So these were just some preliminary sketches I did, and later on I switched it around, and this is the sketch I've made. And here you also see the perspective. This is the perspective guide I used for this one, and it's a 2-point perspective, and it is much wider because I needed to draw the house, and also the characters will be animated later on. And this was just the sketch I was doing, and later on let me see, I'm still working on to enhance the illustration a little bit more, because this is a little bit too straight. So what I'm going to do now, because I made this illustration a little bit bigger, because in the animation this character will fly in and he's going to sit here. So I made the illustration a little bit bigger, and this is drawn on, let me see the size, 7,680 by 4,320. So that's 4 times as much as 4K or as HD video. So what I'm now going to do, because I added, this is the original illustration, and then I just drew some other stuff, because here's the back of the tree. And what you can do is, of course, create a layer or a group with these 2 layers. Or what I sometimes do is just make a new layer and just drop in a white color, and then just adjust the opacity of the layer. And now I can draw on top of that, and just using a pencil, or you can ink on it, but I still need to adjust some of the illustration and sketch in some other things, because there are some tangents and I don't like this part. So I'm just going to sketch over it again. So you sometimes need to build up your sketches, and when I was still working on paper, I used a light table a lot. But this is the same thing, it's only digital. So I need to change this part because I want, and the image is very big, so I can use the 6B pencil. And if you work in smaller files or file sizes, the 6B is a little bit too thick to do some sketches with, I think. But it works fine with bigger images. Hello, Keith. So you finally made it. Hello in Japan. It's morning here. I can't watch much as I'm going ice skating. Oh, that's fun as well. So it's, I think, 8 a.m. or 8:30, 8:46 a.m. in Japan. Yes, about 8:46. Well, it's 1:47 a.m. here because I'm in Amsterdam time. So it's rather late, but you know, it's hard to do a broadcast so that everyone can see it in the world. Jack Oley says, "Hi, Stayf. I really enjoy your work. I'm up late in England and have work tomorrow. Recently started practicing my drawing technique on paper with simple lines. I hope it's all worth it." Well, it's always worth it to practice because I still learn every day I'm drawing. So it's always good, you know, to practice art because there's always something new to learn. And I'm now just sketching over it and want to make it a little bit more organic. And these staircases, because this is going to lock into this pole, they are made out of bamboo, or so they're not really straight, but you know, when you start out, this is a difficult perspective you need to draw. So I first always make it in a perfect perspective, and then later on I can just tweak it around to make it feel a little bit more organic. Let me check the chat box. I also got some questions that I already answered in the comments, and I got one from Cora Brown. I'm not sure if you're still watching this, and you asked, thanks for this review, and I'm not quite sure what review it was, but Procreate is still my favorite, but I like to see what the other apps can do. Stayf, is there an animation app that works on an iPad Pro? And I already answered it, but it's great to see it in action, and there is an app for that, and which is called Animation Desk, and it looks like an old animation desk. And here you have some lessons, and it just looks a bit like this, and I did some animations with it, but I just tested it because they have not updated the app. And here you have some frames you can play, and you have to press on edit, and then you can edit your now it's too fast, and you can also change the frames per second. And this is a great app because it really looks like an old animation desk, and you have 3 layers you can work in, and you can also add sound, but I don't think you can export to HD, which is a shame. But this is a nice app if you just want to do some rough animations, and then you can import it into another program. Doc Fur asks, does anyone know how I can see the live chat on an Apple TV? Well, I'm not quite sure if it will work on an Apple TV, but maybe you can see the video but not the chat. But maybe someone else is watching this on an Apple TV, because I would really like to know as well. Also got another question of one OK Josh. Want to create a canvas the same size as the YouTube video. What should the width and height be set to? Well, HD is 9020 by 1080p. And when you're in Procreate, you can make your own canvases. When you press on the plus, and I already made an HD video, 1080 I've called it, but you can make your own canvas and then save it into your default canvases. So when you press on new canvas, you can just do it in millimeters, centimeters, inches, and pixels. And the interesting thing with millimeters is now that you can also change the DPI, and that's very important if you're, making some things for print. And for the internet, it's just in pixels. So you have to press 9020 by 1080, and here you can name your canvas. So call it HD video, and then press done, and then you've made a file, and you can already, or you can go back to the gallery and you have saved it now as a default canvas size. You're welcome, Cora. Cora Brown says, that's great. Thanks for the quick demo of Animation Desk. Well, I'm maybe doing a review about it because I haven't worked with it for a while now, so I have to get comfortable with the app, and then I'll do a review and show you what you can do with the app. Doc Rock 1, hi Ron from BC, Canada. You have taught me so much, thank you. Oh, you have taught me so much, thank you. You're welcome, Ron. BC, Canada, what's BC? Jack Ollie, have you considered using an Apple Pencil grip, or are you comfortable with it by itself? Well, I did some reviews of some pencils or some casings, and I've made some reviews about them. I'm not quite sure what they're. When you go to my YouTube channel, there is a playlist of the reviews. I already did a review about the Apple Pencil sleeve and the pens review, but I really like the slim design of the Apple Pencil, and well, that's just my preference, but some other artists like a bigger grip. So I've made some reviews about it. I liked it a little bit, but I prefer to draw everything just with the Apple Pencil. I also made a video about drawing in the style of Mary Blair. This was the first print. Whoops, I'm just gonna turn it off. And I've made, here you can see the entire tutorial on how to draw with gouache. And I've made some prints of the Mary Blair image, and it's now available on my Etsy shop. So if you're interested in that, you can visit my Etsy shop, and when you go to my YouTube channel, when you go to About, there you can see all the links to my site, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also Etsy. And here you can see my Etsy shop. So if you're interested in that, you're always free to look around. Jack Ollie, thanks for the answer. I'll be sure to go and check them out. Have a nice evening. Well, thanks, Jack. Have a nice evening too. Just gonna continue with this illustration. And if you have any questions, you can always type them in the chat box to the right of this video. So who is still watching, because I cannot see it in the chat? Paul Jones still here. Dave Webster, I'm still here. Okay. Cora Brown still here in snowy New Hampshire, USA. Also got a comment of Howard Wimshurst, and he's a great animator, and he also has a YouTube channel. So I would really recommend, if you want to learn something about animating in Flash, or it's now called Adobe Animate, just check out his site. And I think, well, let me see where my YouTube is at. Done. Let me see. What? Just can show you his name, Howard Wimshurst, and he does some great tutorials about animating in Flash. Doug Fur, I'm here from Oregon, watching on Apple TV and chatting via iPhone. Okay, well, that's also a good way to do it. So you can also chat via the iPhone. I didn't know that. Art Music, sorry, got here late. LA traffic. Yeah, that's always a bummer. LA traffic. Was there a year ago? But you always have fair weather, so. Just gonna continue with this illustration. I'm not sure if this is interesting to watch, but this is just real time and nothing is how do you call it? Speed up with computer. And I'm just making little changes to it, to the illustration underneath, because the structure still needs to be the same, but just gonna add some more organic stuff. And I first needed to figure out how these staircases would work. And then when you have that fixed, you can, do some adjustments to it. Patricia Rollins says, have you ever played Bendy the Ink Machine for the first time? I'm not sure what Bendy the Ink Machine is. Hello, Patricia. Bendy the Ink Machine. Well, it's already 1 hour of live stream, so I think I'm going to wrap this up. Um, I'm going to do a live stream every first Saturday of the month. So the next one will be in March. No, April. I think in June. So I hope you like this stream, or if you have any question, you can still type it in the chat box to the right. And otherwise, I will wrap up this live broadcast. Art Music says, do you have more than one process? Yeah, I have several processes I use for painting, and it all depends on what kind of style I'm painting. Uh, Sometimes I just want to do watercolor, so I build up the colors like you do with watercolors. And I already made it's a very long um, tutorial. I'm not sure if I can find it. Well, I did one with parcels, and that was this illustration. And then you build up your, because I'm used to painting on paper, and I just use the same techniques, but because it is digital, you can enhance or use a lot of digital things to make it work. And this was an illustration I did for a poster, because this was the view I had from my studio, and this is build up from using a watercolor brush I've made myself, and then I just build up the colors gradually, like you do when you're painting with real watercolors. Let me see, Paul Jones. Is there any chance that you can start with a simple sketch and then show color and shading in the next live stream? Well, that would be a good thing to do. Alberto Hernandez says it looks fantastic. Well, thank you, Alberto. Well, this took about, I think, 32 hours to make this illustration. So it's it's an A2 poster, and you can also buy it on my Etsy shop, but it's very detailed. So that's why it took such a long time, and because I've built up everything from light to dark like you do with real watercolors. Art Music asks, do you ever start painting and then work your way to detail? Yeah, most of the time I do that. Let me see if I have a sample. Because in the other live stream I just made this little thing, and I haven't finished it yet, but I just start out like more of an impressionistic painting and then go in more into detail. Let me see if I can find any other pieces. Just have to look. Oh, this is one I've built up. It's another illustration I did. I'm not sure if I've made a video about it, but I can replay it, I think, if it's still working. You can also replay your drawings, because everything you do in Procreate is recorded. This was an other illustration, and this is how I build up the illustration. So it's very rough in the beginning, and then I'll just refine it. Yeah, here I didn't make a drawing and I just painted it straight ahead, just using, this was done with the Kaczynski brush, I think. Let me see. That's one of my favorite brushes to work with. It's the Kaczynski ink. So I'm going to wrap up this broadcast. So thanks for watching, and if you have any more questions, you can always leave them in the comments down below my videos. And as I always end my videos, drawing is fun and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!